We've got Craig Trapp joining us to talk some NBA futures and some value.
Just a reminder to hit like and subscribe, and also the bell if you want to be notified every time we post a new video.
Craig, what you got? Any of these teams looking better to you now that the trade deadline has passed?
Well, we were talking before we started here, and I said I don't think there's any of the, maybe outside the Clippers. The Clippers get Marcus Morris and Isaiah Thomas in a trade. That could help their playoff chances or their championship chances. But everybody else, as far as contenders, I would say the top 10 most obvious choices, didn't really make any moves. And like you said, Tony T kind of broke to us that the Lakers are looking at picking some people off of maybe the waiver wire. J.R. Smith.
Big move there.
Yeah, I think what the Lakers could use is a player like a J.J. Redick type. We see some of these guys.
They need a shooter.
Yeah, they could use some shooters. For me, I just think the obvious choices right now: the Bucks at plus 275, the Lakers at plus 275, the Clippers at plus 320. Everybody else is 12-1 or greater. I think this is more wide open than that. I just think it's more. Yes, I think the obvious favorite, if I had to pick one, would be the Clippers to win it all. If you said, who's the most obvious? Irregardless of the future odds, I would say the Clippers is who I would pick. But it's way more wide open than just those three short favorites for me.
Do you think it's more wide open in the East as opposed to the West? Because obviously in the past few years, that's been the case. It's not as clear and obvious in the West. It's not like the Warriors were in the years of the past. But it seems like the path in the East might be a little easier. Agree or disagree?
Well, I think the East is easier. You could tell me probably any team that makes the playoffs could go deep and maybe even get to the championships, to the finals from the East, but I don't think it's as obvious in the West. I think Denver's pretty good in the West. Portland has snuck in. Now they're in the 8th spot. The way Damian Lillard's playing right now, if you're the 1 seed, would you want to face Portland in the first round? No way.
He's hitting threes from Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. He is playing out of his mind, and Portland, of course, McCollum's been out. So, I mean, they've been doing it with the hand behind the back. How about the Dallas Mavericks? You're looking at a team that is, when Luka's healthy, is as dangerous as anybody in the West. And right now, what are they? They're the
and Porzingis, if he's healthy too, he's been banged up a little bit too.
And they're the 7th seed. How about, do you want to place those two teams? You want to play the Blazers, and then the other team, of course, is the Spurs. They've been hot, and the Grizzlies. Those are the 4 or 5 teams that are fighting for that 7th and 8th spot. They're all within a game or two of each other. None of those teams, if you're the Lakers or the Clippers in the West, would you want to face right now, or the Jazz. The Jazz have been pretty hot. The Nuggets, Rockets, all those teams. I mean, there's not one of those teams that is clear-cut as we've seen Golden State in years past.
Right. I think the Grizzlies are still a couple years away. They're really fun to watch. Ja Morant, obviously, super fun to watch, but I don't think they're yet. Looking at some of these odds, we were talking about the Blazers, 10,000 plus 10,000. Is that correct? Am I reading those zeros right?
Yep. Plus 10,000. Same with the Thunder. The Raptors, I mean, we even see it, 30-1. The Pacers at 66-1. To me, I don't think it's quite, I wouldn't go maybe that far, because I could see the Blazers winning a round. Like we saw the Denver Nuggets win as an 8th seed.
Yeah.
Back probably 15, maybe even 20 years ago now. I don't think you can see a team go from beat a 1 seed and then go ahead and go on to the finals. What I do think is that would open it wide open, though. For me, I think the most obvious choice outside of the Clippers is the Boston Celtics. I just think Brad Stevens, he finally got rid of Kyrie. Now he's got a player that's way more coachable, that really gets along with Jaylen Brown and Tatum.
Kemba Walker.
Yeah, I mean, Kemba Walker's playing great.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Kemba Walker is just, I don't know if he's an upgrade for the Celtics. I think Kyrie's better. If you just said you had to win 1 game. But when you have to win all the games to get to the championship, I like Kemba Walker better to fit in with Jaylen Brown and Tatum. Those 3 are very, very good, and they're a deep team, so they're not relying on one player. We've seen with Kemba Walker being out lately, they've been just fine. So I think the Celtics at 14-1 are a really good shot. If you said, hey, you really can go out there, I would go 25-1. The 2 I would probably throw in there would probably be the Nuggets and the Mavs at 25-1. I think both of those teams, we saw the Nuggets last year, they were the number 1 seed. Not quite as good this year where they're at right now. I think they're the number 3 seed as of now, but they're tied percentage points half a game behind the Clippers. So this team could end up with a 1, 2, or 3 seed still, and you're getting them at 25-1. So I would play in the West, I'd play those 2. In the East, I would play the Boston Celtics. I wouldn't play the Clippers, even though I think they're the most obvious team to win. Why? Because, just over 3-1. I don't think there's a whole lot of value there. We saw that last year. It just takes one injury. Kawhi goes down. Paul George, which of course is coming off an injury, goes down, and this team's in trouble. So to me, if I'm going to play a futures at this point of the season, right after the trade deadline, I'm looking at 10-1 or better. And all three of the Celtics, Mavericks, and Nuggets all get me into that range.
So let's talk about staying in the East. Let's talk about the Sixers and the Heat. Talent-wise, it seems like the Sixers should be in the conversation. They should be there. I don't know if it's the chemistry. I don't know if it's the fact that Ben Simmons cannot shoot, which is an anomaly to me that he's in the NBA and he's his first-round draft pick, and he's not a shooter. I don't know how that happens, but Joel Embiid's throwing some subtweets his way, saying that their offense can't get going. But talent-wise, they should be there. It's a big market team. They've spent the money. Joel Embiid's a superstar. They have help around him. And then the Heat, Pat Riley's making moves down there. I mean, nobody talks about them, but they're having a good year down there.
Yeah, I mean, the Heat are now the number 4 seed, and the Sixers are the number 6 seed. Yet, when you look at the odds, the Sixers are 12-1, the Heat are 25-1. Something doesn't fit here. Jimmy Butler, when they weren't able to sign him, of course, and keep all that rest of talent they had. So he went to Miami. When he gave the Miami a real shot, because he's not just a one-way player. He doesn't just play defense anymore. He's a real dude on offense now, and this is a guy that he holds everybody accountable. Every game they bring it in Miami. They did get Andre Iguodala at the trade deadline. I don't know if he's a guy that's going to push them over the top, but I think at least he gives them some veteran leadership off the bench. I like this Heat team way more than I like the Sixers. Right now, this Sixers team on the road, they play zero defense at home, but on the road, they don't even pretend. And they're just going in the wrong direction right now. Like you said, Ben Simmons, I know he worked on his three-point game, they said in the offseason, hasn't been very good, hasn't helped them a whole lot. To me, I think he just needs to, if I was the Sixers, I'd be trying to trade this guy for some draft picks in the future. He's a nice player. I just don't think you can win with a player that can't shoot the three-point on a consistent basis now in this current NBA landscape.
Right, and the Heat, I think, are almost the opposite of the Sixers. They don't have the big names. I guess Jimmy Butler obviously is a big name. But I think Iggy's a good presence to have in the locker room when you're playing in the postseason. But at this point, I think his mouth is better than his game. He's getting older. I don't think he's quite the guy that he used to be, but he's still an addition. He can still be a great role player for them. But it'll be interesting to plays out in the East. And the Bucks, I know everybody talks about Giannis, but Chris Middleton, he's been scoring a lot of points too. And in the postseason, he's been great. So I'd like to see what the Bucks do in the postseason this year. I remember being really disappointed in the playoffs last year to see them kind of wilt.
Well,
we'll see if
that's
the
the
case
problem,
this year.
though, Chelsea. When you have a team that, they're the number 1 seed last year, a lot of expectations coming into this year. Now they have those ghosts. Come to playoffs, they get down a game in the playoffs or get down in a game of series. That could be the issue. That's why I have to bet against the team, even though right now they're playing very good basketball, especially at home. I mean, they're almost unbeatable at home, but plus 275 is a little crazy right now for a futures game with a team that didn't even make it to the finals last year.
Right. All right. So just to recap, what were the teams that you liked real quick?
Yeah, I like the Celtics at 14-1, the Denver Nuggets, and the Dallas Mavericks at 25-1. I think I would put all three of those teams. If you hit any one of them, you're going to have a pretty good payoff.